Now, Cyril Ramaphosa has messaged he is coming as the sole guy or the guy in charge around a new dawn. And I want to start right there to help me understand whether this guy has made the difference that is required or not. Let me introduce my guest, Vusi Thembekwayo, CEO of my growth fund. Thank you for coming, Vusi.
How do you do?
And sitting next to you is Lesiba Mothata. He crunches numbers. Thank you for coming, Lesiba.
Excellent.
From
Love that.
Solutions.
That's what
Okay.
I do. Numbers.
I'll save you for last.
Yeah.
Vusi, this messaging and the outcome out of those first 100 days, I know it's a short period of time, but it is an awfully long time. Because when you look at what happened in Rwanda, you realize it's a long time. Have the two meshed?
Yeah, absolutely. No, without doubt. Remember, before the president ascended to the presidency, we'd come out of in a period of just terrible leadership, terrible uncertainty in markets, political turmoil that was festering and infecting the economy. So for the president in the first 100 days, if you think about what he's done, he's brought a little bit of stability, a message of hope. He's delivered some critical wins. It's not all of them, but the ones that he's delivered show that the direction is the right direction.
Right.
So in my mind, he's actually done more than enough for the first 100 days. I think he's done exceptionally well.
Yeah. I suspect I know your answer. Because when you look at how the markets have reacted, and we look at some of the language that we're hearing from the markets, I had Brian Joffrey sitting here with me the other day and telling me that the R in the Rand should be known as Ramaphosa. How well has he done?
No, it's a very good contribution that has happened. As Vusi was talking about the negativity that we came from and where we find ourselves now, it's a major contribution. However, these were quick wins. And for whom much is given, and I'll argue Ramaphosa much is given, just from his career, you look where he comes from, one could argue that the position that he's in now, it was almost meant. I, as a young man, had in my room his picture. Say, this is the leader I want to aspire to and become. So much is given to him, but much more is required. How has he done in 100 years? Okay. The needs are bigger than what we have right now, and I think much more is needed. Much more is needed. This is not sufficient.
Sure. If you were to mark him out of the work that he has done, what would you give him?
Well, a number between 0 and 10, I mean, it's very difficult to get to those, numerics, but clearly it's more than 50%. But the needs of this country, especially the economic needs, are much bigger and deeper than what I see is beginning to ensue.
Right.
I took heart in seeing what was put out in the budget. And I also took heart in seeing the reform agenda that was put out. However, I'm not seeing a follow through.
Yeah.
Is it a lame duck situation?
Yeah.
Or is it a new dawn? I'm not so sure whether it's a complete new dawn.
So give me a number for that new dawn, Mr. Numbers.
Well, here's a number. We were at Soweto late last year, where he issued a speech and said, I want to achieve 3% GDP growth, and I want to bolster economic confidence around business people, etc. And that's what has ensued. And he said he wants 3% growth. So the number is 3%, but he does well. In the February budget, and they say this is how you get it. So they break it down. Potential growth is 1.5%.
Yeah.
You can get 0.6 if you do reforms in labor, if you do transport reforms, if you do tourism, etc. They build it up nicely to 3.7.
Right.
What's the number? 3.7. That's what we need to get to.
Right.
But I'm hoping that the council is receiving, which is a good one.
Yeah.
Because Trudy Mackay is going to add a lot of value to that conversation. If we can get to that level,
Yeah.
in the medium term,
Yeah.
and also achieve the $100 billion of foreign direct investment planned,
Yeah.
those are the numbers. It's 103.7.
Okay. I see you're running away from giving me a number. I'm going to come back to you, and I still want my number, so you're not going to escape. I can tell you that. Vusi, from your perspective,
A 9.
out of 10.
Easy. I work in capital markets. I work in the alternative asset classes. I'm telling you now, I travel the world and I'm talking to investors. The conversations are very different. Right, and this is the thing about South Africans is we need to be careful not to be so stuck in our own reality we lack context.
Yeah.
From a global context, people are saying you finally got a leader that gets it. Yeah, your economy is not growing at the rate at which it needs to grow, but the beginning and end of things is leadership. It begins and ends with leadership.
Yeah.
You've got a leader that says, here's the message, here's the direction, here's where we're going, and here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Just think about just this past week. What have we discovered this past week? That there was over 700 million rand in wasteful expenditure at one of the main carriers in the country. Now, if you compound that, how many RDP homes do you build for 700 million rands? How many kids do you put in school? How many schools do you build, right? So what you've got here is a guy who in 3 months has done a phenomenal. Is there more to do? Yes.
Okay.
I mean, and for me, by the way, here's what I think.
Yeah.
I think the number for the first 100 days is X, but I don't think that'll be the number going forward.
Right.
Because I think, to your point, the wins we've seen have been fantastic wins, but they've been quick wins. It's been shuffle here, move here, do this, put this in place, and achieve these things.
Yeah, and we mustn't forget this guy is preparing for an election.
Quite. Absolutely, right? So there's the exuberance of that as well.
Yeah.
There's the need to be seen to, these are the walks we're seeing every single morning, which are fantastic. Get a nation walking. This is good.
You summed up very neatly what the foreign investors are liking about Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
What about as a person who's got money sunk into South Africa's economy here? What are you liking? And then I also want to talk to you about what you are not liking.
Yeah. So, look, here's been our challenge. You only build sustainable enterprises by building growing economies.
Right.
The problem with the South African economy is structurally it's oligopolistic. 55 million South Africans living in this country, 83% of them Black African. There are 4, maybe 5 major banks, 6 large clothing retailers, 7 large mining houses. Nowhere else in the world is that the case. The Kenyans have 44 million people living in Kenya, 40 banks. Right. So what you need to do to create a broad-based distribution of wealth is to truly broaden economic participation.
Or break up the monopolies.
Well, this is it. And for me, my only concern as a venture capitalist to invest in entrepreneurs early stage and helps them grow businesses, we're seeing it every single day, is there is a point of growth where entrepreneurs just can't break that ceiling. And the reason they can't break that ceiling is because the instruments of monopoly then begin to suppress. And by the way, this is just a final note.
Yeah.
Business by its very nature is competitive. So if you come to me and I run a billion-rand business and you want to innovate in my space, I naturally am going to defend it. Right. So you can't on the one end say businesses shouldn't do that.
Right.
Shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
What you have to do is you have to build an economy that grows at such a rate that it can absorb these entrepreneurs building new businesses. That we're not doing because of the labor regulation situation, which for me, if he addressed that, just that alone, just a quick point on this.
Yeah.
An entrepreneur today employing 2 people has exactly the same labor laws as ShopRite with 20, 30,000 people.
Okay.
That's not sustainable anywhere in the world.
Okay.
You address those issues, you can unlock a lot of latent potential sitting
Yeah.
in this quagmire of where we're at.
You want to come in?
No, I agree with all of that.
I've got a question for you in case you want me to ask you a question.
Well,
but I think you want to respond to some of the issues that
the
you
one
raised.
point is,
Yeah.
for whom much is given, much is required. All of these have been in the making in South Africa, and we're not short of good ideas. Here, the requirement for a good president as we have as Cyril Ramaphosa is much bigger, right? This positivity and the global view that's been expressed in SA requires a lot more.
Yeah.
And I need to see more, which I'm not finding at the moment.
How many times have you had to revise your growth forecast for South Africa since Ramaphosa came in?
That's an interesting question because they are not significantly higher from what they were last year.
Yeah.
So the economy surprised the market. Having expected 0.6 GDP growth, it comes at 1.3.
Yeah.
But already we had
Double.
we already cooked, well, double from a very low base.
Double? I'm just looking at the numbers here.
These are numbers that leaves very little to be desired. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Already last year, because the bottom of the economy in the business cycle was June of last year. Already it was in an upward swing. You would see it in retail numbers and manufacturing, you could see it.
You are taking away his impact.
Already the economy had rebounded in the middle of the year.
Lesiba, I would counter-argue and say that maybe the market had started pricing in Cyril Ramaphosa way before he came in. Well, maybe some people had seen that this guy had the right ideas, had the momentum, had the debate on his side to be able to go against Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and crush it.
it was a very difficult situation, right? We could see it in how our managers were positioned. It was a half-half, binary situation. Some said it's going to be Cyril, and some said it's going to be an alternative outcome.
But what do markets do? What do markets do? You tell me. You know what
markets
markets
did
do.
better. So, but the point I'm making is, all this information was already in the making from mid-year last year. The economic momentum was already set in the midst of negativity. So what am I expecting in growth going forward? Only 2%. And that's the number that was already put out in October. In other words, for whom much is given, much is required. I need to see how it's going to get 100 billion. I need to see how it's going to get 3.7%.
So my producer is saying, he says I should ask you, are you a DA member?
Well, no, but in fact, yeah.
I take that back.
We got to have a contribution to good things.
Lesiba, I take it back. Let's look at what he's done on the state-owned enterprises and what, well, by extension, what Praveen has done, because he's doing it at the behest of, and we know they do discuss these things. Has he done enough, in your view, to fix the rot that we have in that sector?
No, it's not enough.
Quickly, tell me why.
Because, as we heard, we still have a state-owned enterprise, SAA, that's bleeding money in a tough way, right? Yes, you put leadership, but those are quick wins. If you ask me to put a board together, that makes sense. It's quick wins.
What should he have done?
More. In other words, let's see a business plan. Let's commercialize this outcome.
Yes, put in the people who are going to come up with a business plan.
Well, it's been a while now, right? It's been a while. Where I'm sitting now, the balance sheet of this economy is being bleeded, right? What's happening? We still continue to have guarantees that are put out to state-owned enterprise. I haven't seen a plan that's changing that outcome. Not at this point.
You can't divorce structural bureaucracy from time period of evaluation. Government and governance are incredibly complex instruments. The South African governance system is a cooperative governance model, which means at a local government level, the president actually has very little, if any, power. At a provincial government level, as we've just seen now, precisely, at a provincial government level, he in fact has almost no power, which is why he had to rely on the lever of power that was the ANC rather than his authority as the president to act. The reason I make these points is because when you then assess performance, you then have to say, but what is the situation and the structure of the situation, and then therefore the power available. So I look at something like an SAA, where you've taken an incredibly capable executive, right, like Vuyani, from one of the fledgling telecommunications enterprises, convinced them to come and run an institution like this. Then you take a Paramani Hatebe, who pulled the land bank from the red, and you bring him into. These are not black professionals who are not without options. Paramani was running Absa Capital. He was plenty in good. So what you've done is you've built an equity of people, but there is a structural bureaucracy that will take time.
I thought you would be amongst those who are saying that he should have done more, and I thought you were going to say the same thing by selling SAA.
No.
Where are you finding 21 billion rand to refloat that thing?
Let's just reverse.
Let it go.
Let's reverse. I'll give you one example, one very simple example. We ran the numbers on this because we have to present these studies, right? The South Africa-Beijing route, when it was still active, cost Joburg-Beijing, that was R1 billion loss to SAA. What nobody tells you was the foreign earnings on tourism on that link were 3 billion. SAA's problem, and I've said this on this platform before, isn't a loss-making problem. SAA's problem is an accounting problem. What SAA does is it accounts on its ability to bring people into the country. But what we don't look at is what do those people spend when they are in the country.
Okay, are you saying we can't bring other people through other airlines?
Not only that, I'm saying you also couldn't do it affordably. When we talk about, look, let's just be clear, I'm a Smithsonian Keynesian economist guy, right? I believe in the power of the capital markets and private enterprise. Right. But I can tell you for free, we disconnected the Beijing SAA route. I don't see the alternative for-profit airlines flocking to fill up that route.
Let's tackle the other big issue. I wish I had more time. Let's tackle the other big issue, corruption. He has, as he was coming in, we saw the beginnings of a flurry of movements in areas we never thought possible. The raid on Saxon World. Then we saw the squaring up to Tom Moyane. Then we saw the squaring up to the money that was being spent on the defense of former President Jacob Zuma. Has he done enough, in your view, to send a message? Because I think corruption is about perception.
I know,
yeah.
Has he done enough?
So that's very good. I mean, it's actually has been the Achilles heel of South Africa.
Yeah.
And for him to be agile, as we have seen in that responses that you mentioned, it's a good thing. And we need to see more. But I'm actually taking heart in having seen that outcome. The agility of dealing with corruption is what's needed, and I'm seeing it increasingly, and that's a good thing.
Vusi?
Yeah, look, I agree. I 100% agree. I think he's done what he can do. Here's what I think will really send the message. What will send the message is not when we sing commissions of inquiry.
Yeah.
What will send the message is when we seeing people go behind bars.
Right.
That sends a message very clearly, because to your point, corruption becomes embedded in the culture of how people do things. Yeah, we see it. We've got I'll tell you, in our firm, we've got a project that's about financial inclusion. So we go around the country and we put out centers where we try to get people in the most desperate circumstances to come and participate. 249 municipalities, we want to get 249 of these centers up. And we partner with corporates to do it. It's called Project 249.
Right.
But when we go into those very local municipalities and you're trying to put in an institution, a place that's going to help young people find access to jobs, to opportunities, start businesses, people then ask you for, what am I getting?
Sure.
It's a messaging thing. It's an embedded thing.
Yeah.
The only way it stops is you've got to do what the South Koreans have done. You've got to do what the Chinese have done. You've got to go, you do it, there's going to be consequences. When that message gets sent, you will see behavior change very quickly.
We have 1.5 minutes of the show left. I asked you earlier, 1 minute, what has he done that you haven't liked?
It's interesting that
I know the answer.
He's been consistent. He's been consistent. 9 out of 10 is a very high mark, which means he's mostly happy.
You know what it's been?
What's the one
it's
thing
the
he
SASSA
hasn't
issue.
done?
It's the SASSA issue. 17 million grant recipients in this country. We can't afford to be playing around with this thing.
Right.
And as a president, what I would have liked him to do is to go this, by then, and this is what's going to happen if this thing doesn't happen.
I thought you were going to say land expropriation without compensation.
No.
it's an excellent contribution. It's an excellent contribution. However, my number is a 6. Because I expect much more from that quality. Point 6 talks to the fact that the needs are bigger.
Yeah.
And from a quality leadership with what we have now, I need to see more. SA can double in size. And it's this type of leadership that can make it happen.
Okay. So we have run out of time. I want you guys, though, and I'm putting you under tight pressure here, to come up with a label, 10 seconds, of what this guy is. I already have my label, so I've got an unfair advantage.
What do you mean by label?
I want you to label him. Sum him up in 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, no more.
He's a closer.
He's a closer.
Yeah, I was about to say he's an executor.
Is it?
Executor. Gets it
Execute. Is it?
Well, he's much more than that.
He's done excellently by the markets, without doubt.
Well, he's got a constituency. He's talking to the right thing about the economy.
Yeah.
That's about people.
As an executor, he's done the business. Let's see if he'll be able to do the business at the elections. Gentlemen, thank you for your contribution.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.